So you made it to the last video of Unit 8. So today we're going to be talking about Pythagorean theorem and trig. So in these types of problems, you're given the trig function. So like in problem 1, it says sine theta equals 1 over half or 1 over 2, and what you have to do is you have to figure out the other side and then use that to figure out what another trig function is. So it says in a right triangle with acute angle measure of theta. Remember, theta is just like your x. So instead of putting theta, I'm going to put x. So I know there's a right triangle. It doesn't really matter what angle you label x. I'm going to call this bottom angle x. And then it says sine theta equals 1 over 2. Well, we have to think about what sine is, okay? So think about SOHCAHTOA, and I know that sine is opposite over adjacent, or over hypotenuse. So what I have to do now is I have to come over to my triangle and look where my opposite and hypotenuse side is. So across from my angle x is opposite, which means that has a side length of 1. And then across from my right angle is my hypotenuse, which has a side length of 2. So then it wants to know, well, what's cosine? So remember, cosine of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I need to figure out what the adjacent side is. So I have two sides, it's a right triangle. The only option I have to figure out the third side is Pythagorean theorem. So remember, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now your c is your hypotenuse. It doesn't matter what you put for a or b, those can change. So I'm going to leave it a because we're solving for that adjacent side. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. I'm going to subtract 1 on the other side. I'm going to get a squared equals 3. If I take the square root, then I get a equals radical 3. That means the adjacent side is radical 3. So now if I wanted to figure out the cosine, well, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it would be radical 3 over 2. And instead of saying my angle, I'm just going to put x, or you can put your theta. So this is my answer. So you have to draw a picture, figure out where to put everything, use Pythagorean theorem to solve for your last missing side, and then come up with your new trig function. So let's try another one. It's number 2 says, in a right triangle with an acute angle measure of theta, sine theta equals 7 over 9. What is the value of tan theta? So again, I'm going to draw a right triangle. Sine is opposite over adjacent. So let's say I'm talking about this angle. This is my x or my theta, remember? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I come over to my triangle and I look at my opposite side, so opposite this angle. And then my hypotenuse is across from my right angle, which makes this side my adjacent. So my opposite side was 7, my hypotenuse was 9. So now I need to find tangent. Remember, tan theta, or tan an angle, is just opposite over adjacent. So I still need that adjacent side, and I don't have a side length on it yet, which means I have to do Pythagorean theorem. So I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My hypotenuse is always my c. And now I'm going to solve for a. So 7 squared is 49. 9 squared is 81. 81 minus 49 is 32. And I'm going to leave it the square root of 32 because it doesn't say to break it down. So that means this side is the square root of 32. So now for tangent, all I have to do is write tan theta, and then my opposite side, which is 7, and then my adjacent side, which is radical 32. So that's what you're going to do for problems 3 and 4, and then all these down here. So it's good practice just to get you comfortable working with Pythagorean theorem and trig. You can skip the law of sines. It's just a nice reminder when we did our double trig ratio. So if you don't want to skip it and you want to practice with law of sines, that's fine. If you don't, you can just skip it. So we're going to skip that problem too. But then you're going to continue on and complete the rest of this as well. Okay, after you do that, then you can start working on your review sheet, so your test is going to be coming soon.